But they made a move, man. It's a big move, and I think they become more dynamic offensively. And not to take away anything from Kyrie or Luka or Dallas's team, but I think losing the pieces that they lost a lot of defense. I think Finney was underrated. He was very good for them, very good role player. Spencer as well. And the picks, I think, Brooklyn, it's a good trade for both sides, I think. But I think Brooklyn got some little extra with the picks, and then they said they got some defense and some surrounding pieces for if KD were to stay. I'm assuming KD hasn't asked for a trade yet. I'm assuming KD is going to be there. He's be there long term, and they're going to build around him. We'll still see. That's still up in the air. We still have a couple of days, some hours before the trade deadline. But Dallas is good, man. They're forced to be reckoned with that two-headed snake over there. So that two-headed monster. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams going to guard that. You have to have two really good defenders to guard Luka and Kyrie, and we're still getting healthy right now. And to have two quality elite defenders to do that is going to be tough for any team in any conference. So I'm interested to see how it works out.
That's your thoughts. I think the Dallas Mavericks are cooked. I think they're done. So? I think they're cooked. Dorian Finney-Smith was a valuable defender for them. I think Spencer Dinwiddie was a nice, reliable player that they had. But end of the day, as it pertains to this season, I ask this question: who are Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving going to guard? The stress that they are now putting on the Reggie Bullocks of the world, the Josh Greens of the world, I think is way too much, honestly. Like, I tell you this, if there was a ticket that I would actually use my money to go to an NBA game for, which I don't like doing, the Mavericks would be in my top 5.
For sure.
Because I would love to watch them.
Exciting.
But I couldn't rely on them. No way.
I think you're forgetting they have a lot of other pieces there too that are really good. With the rim protection, I guess they're going to have to play JaVale some at the rim. They got Kleber there, Powell, that's their rim protection. And on the wings, outside of Reggie Bullock, they do have Tim Hardaway, he's not a bad defender. He's pretty solid. And obviously another scorer. It's going to be interesting how they balance that scoring out. Who's going to come off the bench? Who's going to play? Josh Hardaway's got to come off the bench. Yeah, they got a lot of like sizes on the wing, but I think losing Finney does hurt them. But when you got guys that can outscore you, that's a big part of the league as well. So you have to stop Tim Hardaway, Kyrie, Luka, and then also the lob threats that can also shoot from the perimeter. They do have a really good setup. So it's going to be interesting. I think everybody's interested to see how it's going to pan out. It doesn't seem like it makes sense, but I think Luka taking him off the ball just a little bit, giving him some rest will help him. And then also have a second unit that's when Luka's off the floor, you have another second unit with Kai in there that can still produce some offensive force. So I think everybody's just waiting to see how interested in see how it's going to work out or pan out, if it does or if it doesn't.
I would say they're two of my biggest losers in this equation. Okay. Number one, the Brooklyn Nets fans. Okay, maybe you hold on to KD. We'll get to KD in a moment. But if you were a Brooklyn Nets fan, you threw a parade in your mind. Maybe not one, not two, not three. Maybe you threw 4 parades in your mind already when the trade took place or when the free agency took place that landed you Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And then you traded for James Harden. I remember when that trade happened, I felt this is when you were with the Sixers. As much as I was rooting for you guys, I was like, man, those monsters in Brooklyn, man, they might hold Danny back from getting another ring. Turned out it was really Ben Simmons, but that's neither here nor there. But nonetheless, I thought those guys were going to be a terror. We barely got to see them. It was from a basketball fan standpoint. So if I'm approaching this with no bias, I am, as like a pure basketball fan, I am highly disappointed that these guys, for one way or another, didn't make it work, whether it was Kyrie's not taking the vaccine or James Harden not being interested in being around that environment. Just imagine 2020 2021 KD hits that shot and his foot is not on the line. Could be all different. Could have been to the NBA Finals. They're the ultimate coulda, shoulda, woulda all-stars of our NBA
of our era, for sure.
Of our era, for sure.
But we don't. That's a lot of ifs, man, for that to happen. I'm saying James has to be healthy again. Kyrie, I forget who else was out, but there's a lot of ifs. If James came back, if his hamstring didn't go on, I feel like there's a lot of up and downs, a lot of ifs, a lot of different things that came into play when that group was together, quote unquote. They didn't play many games together. That's because a lot of injuries, a lot of this and that, in and out, vaccine, whatever it may be, family issues. There was a lot of different things that came into play. And maybe that was part of the reason why James went it out. Or maybe, it's hard to figure out how to manage each other's egos or manage or split time with the ball and how to be aggressive. I think that's a big part of it as well. James is a guy that's used to having the ball's hand a lot, dictating the tempo and playing point guard. Sharing that with Kai and KD is not easy to do. It's not easy to be. So there's many different, scenarios or concept or whatever you want to put it, that what ifs that needed to happen for them to be great. But yes, I think a lot of fans wanted to see greatness, but I think most people that understand basketball knew that was going to be tough regardless, even if they were healthy, for them to figure it out and for them to make it, I guess, gel like perfectly, because they're all scorers. That just like you're saying, Dallas is done. We're not saying they're done, but defensively it's a lot different when you have those guys three on the floor. Not saying they don't play defense, but they're not defensive players, but they can outscore you. Obviously with Joe Harris, he was different back then. They had guys that were also in and out, that coming off of injuries, and other guys, DeAndre Jordan at the time. They had a lot of the guys that were there that were trying to figure out their role or coming off injuries. But yeah, I think a lot of the league and a lot of basketball people knew that those three together, it was still going to be tough to figure out how they're going to make it work, regardless of injuries, vaccines or not. So yeah, now that they're in different respective places, I think James is happy where he's at in Philly and he's making it work. I don't know where KD stands with this, but Kyrie, I know he wanted out of Brooklyn. He didn't like the stipulations of the extension they gave to him. And from what I hear, he's ecstatic about being in Dallas, but we'll see. I was assuming that with this trade that the extension would come after that, but there's no extension talks. And that's taking a big risk of trading for someone without getting the extension signed. We're going to see what happens this summer.
Yeah, for sure.